Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Donald Trump issues a warning to Hamas, release all of the remaining hostages by Saturday at noon. And if they are not back, he says, let hell break out. And in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convening the security cabinet today, telling the Israeli military to prepare for any possible scenario in Gaza. Here at home, the battle over cutting government spending, along with waste, fraud, and abuse. We're going to look at what Elon Musk is trying to do and the political pushback he is facing. And Tunisia. It is a country with a long history of Christian faith. Now it's predominantly Muslim, but Christians there are standing firm in their faith. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
I want to begin this busy half hour with the growing tensions between Israel and Hamas and President Trump. The president setting a deadline for the release of all hostages this Saturday at noon and issuing a warning. If they are not freed, quote, all bets are off. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Trump's ultimatum followed Hamas's announcement it was ending the ceasefire agreement.
Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office Monday, President Trump delivered a clear message about the ceasefire and hostage deal.
That's Israel's decision, but as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. All of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2.
Trump condemned the terror group for its treatment of the hostages, referring to the 3 freed on Saturday who appeared nearly starved.
It looked like something out of the 1930s. It's an absolute disgrace. And I think they saw the way the world viewed it, and they're looking for a reason not to send more.
He also issued a warning to Hamas, suggesting consequences if the hostages are not released.
You'll find out, and they'll find out too. Hamas will find out what I mean. These are sick people, and they'll find out what I mean Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Trump's warnings came after Hamas announced it would not release any captives this coming Saturday. The terror group blamed Israel for allegedly violating the ceasefire. In a statement, Hamas accused Israel of delaying the return of people to northern Gaza, targeting civilians, and failing to deliver agreed-upon relief supplies. Families of the remaining hostages expressed deep concern over the delays.
I really hope it's just like power games, and with the help of the negotiations, we'll be able to agree about what is the problem and solve it. And we will be able to see more hostages getting released on coming Saturday.
The hostages are in a clear and present danger. Their lives are at risk. We saw the horror pictures of the released hostages. Those who are still in there may be in worse conditions. They simply don't have time.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is convening a security cabinet meeting to determine its next course of action. The Israeli Defense Ministry has ordered the military to prepare for any possible scenario in the Gaza Strip. Israeli Defense Minister Katz condemned Hamas's move as a complete violation of the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, and ordered the IDF to be at the highest level of readiness.
I want to continue our coverage now with Chris Mitchell, our bureau chief, joining us right now. So, Chris, could all warfare break out in Gaza between Israel and Hamas again if there's no agreement on more hostages being released?
Well, Ephraim, it really does seem possible, and that's exactly why the IDF is preparing, it says, for any scenario. They're also canceling leaves of those soldiers who have just left Gaza, and they're not going anywhere right now. We don't exactly know what Trump means when he says all bets are off, or as he said, all hell to pay. He's actually given Israel the right to cancel what he says. But as we speak right now, Ephraim, the Security Cabinet is meeting and trying to find the way forward on a very complicated situation. They have to consider the remaining hostages and their families. On the other hand, they need to know, fulfill that war goal from the very beginning to destroy Hamas and prevent Hamas from ruling Gaza. The hostages are really at the center of all this dilemma, Ephraim, and it's exactly why Hamas kidnapped more than 250 Israelis and other nationalities on October 7th because they knew this puts Israel in such a dilemma.
Hamas responded to President Trump's warnings by saying threats have no value. What could the U.S. do if the hostages aren't released by Trump's deadline?
Well, one thing they could do, Ephraim, is diplomatic pressure. They could try to work with some of their allies to increase sanctions and isolation against Hamas, which we have said before, and a lot of people are saying this, put pressure on Qatar, the main sponsor of Hamas. They're actually been one of the chief negotiators and the middleman in this, but that would be pressure on Qatar, really could make a difference in Hamas. They could have military action. That could be special operations against Hamas targets, similar to some of the hostage rescue missions, but they're very complicated and very dangerous. In fact, that's why the IDF has really not done as many rescue missions, because it really puts those hostages at risk. Other things they could do would be these economic sanctions, covert operations, and also increase support for Israel. But we're seeing that really in a robust way, especially last week's meeting with Netanyahu and Trump. So the support for Israel is unlike it has been in the last 16 months or so, unlike the Biden administration.
Chris, Israel has already dealt a huge blow to Hamas. How capable are they of fighting now?
Well, they seem to be more capable than people expect. Israel has really significantly weakened them through the last 16 months or so. They've targeted their key leaders, the infrastructure, and the supply lines, but they do have capability to fight. Apparently, they've added recruits, thousands of them apparently, during the fighting, even though Israel said it's killed maybe as many as 15,000 Hamas members and captured others. So the remaining fighters are there, despite the heavy losses. They also have a decentralized structure, and I think people realize this would happen once they hit many of the main brigades by Hamas. And so it's really like a guerrilla warfare right now. They still do maintain some of the tunnel networks. Many have been destroyed, but some still remain. And actually, they're getting some support from the humanitarian aid. And that's why some people here in Israel want Israel to stop that aid, because Hamas is stealing it. They're using it for their own means, and they're also selling it. So that's how they're getting funding for their operations. So despite all the efforts by the IDF to destroy Hamas, they still maintain some fighting capability.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has announced the end of the pay-to-slay policy. Remind us again what that policy is, and what are you hearing about this decision?
Well, pay-to-slay, Ephraim, simply means that the Palestinian Authority pays terrorists who have committed terror attacks, including up to murder, for Israelis. Once they go to jail, they and their families get a stipend. It's based on their sentence, how long they're going to be in jail for, and also the severity of their attack. So it increases actually when the terror attack is actually worse. Announcement by the PA yesterday that they're stopping those payments. But we talked to Itamar Marcus from the Palestinian Media Watch, who watches over the PA on a daily basis. He says nothing has changed, just cosmetic changes, literally just shifting payments from one account to another. So the policy stays in effect. He calls it just cosmetic changes. And he says Abbas cannot not pay these families. If he stopped that, there would be a revolution.
All right. What do you have for us this evening on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, in Jerusalem Dateline, we're going to have our updates. We also have an interview with Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell. We're talking about those 3 hostages that were released. An interview with Gil Troy, and talks about an academic intifada. Also, an interview with someone who says we need to remember the Holocaust and to the next generation. And finally, an interview with a Korean pastor, Pastor Jang, about a Zion conference he has here in Jerusalem later this year.
All right. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, we appreciate you joining us and appreciate your insights. Looking forward to hearing from you again, of course, in the days ahead. Want to remind you at home, you can get the latest from Jerusalem Dateline today at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News channel, as well as the CBN News app, or on YouTube. Coming up here at home, the battle's over cutting down the size and cost of big government. We're going to look at Elon Musk and what he's trying to do and what members of Congress from both sides are saying when we come back.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
The Trump administration's aggressive efforts to shrink the size of the U.S. government are drawing both praise from Republicans and criticism from many Democrats. Elon Musk and his team have reportedly gained access to at least 10 federal agencies. And according to President Trump, the next targets are the Department of Education and Defense. CBN's Caitlin Burke has more on the story from Washington.
Several actions taken by Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, have been blocked, at least temporarily. That's led President Trump to blast those federal judges who he says shouldn't be able to interfere.
No judge should frankly be allowed to make that kind of a decision. It's a disgrace.
Efforts currently blocked by the courts include the administration's plan to put 2,000 employees at USAID on leave, DOGE's access to sensitive information at the Treasury Department, and the buyout offer to federal workers to resign with pay or risk being fired. In response, Musk suggested on X that the federal judges should be impeached. Meanwhile, ahead of Sunday's Super Bowl in a Fox News interview, Trump defended Musk and signaled his next directives.
He's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
Lawmakers from both sides weighing in.
This is a red alert moment when this entire country has to understand that our democracy is at risk. And for what? The billionaire takeover of government.
In this instance, we have Elon Musk and the President of the United States going over to the bureaucracy and saying, we're going to tame you. We're going to pull you back under the executive branch. We're going to look at ways in which we can find savings. And we're going to bring this spending curve down.
Despite being blocked from accessing sensitive data at the Treasury Department, Musk shared several, quote, super obvious and necessary changes where the DOGE and Treasury teams have agreement. They include making the government's books simpler to audit, more accountability over where the funds are going, and more frequent updates to the congressional do not pay list. President Trump also instructed the Treasury Department to stop making new pennies due to the high cost of production, vowing on Truth Social to cut government waste even if it's a penny at a time. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, it's a country with beaches, deserts, and even locations where Star Wars was shot. Tunisia is also a place with a rich history of the Christian church. We're going to take you to the Pearl of the Mediterranean to meet some of the heroes of yesterday and today. That story's coming up right after this. The African country of Tunisia is deeply rooted in Christianity with a rich heritage dating back centuries. Despite its predominantly Muslim population, Tunisia's faith history includes the legacy of the early martyrs, and it continues to shape its spiritual identity. George Thomas brings us the story from Carthage, Tunisia.
If you're looking for an adventure destination off the beaten path, look no further than Tunisia.
Tunisia is a wonderful nation. We like to call it the Pearl of the Mediterranean. It overlooks the entire Mediterranean Sea and is like a beautiful window to our desert.
Bordered by Algeria, Libya, and the Mediterranean Sea, Tunisia offers a diverse range of landscapes, from beautiful beaches to the vast Sahara Desert. And for certain movie fans,
Tunisia is home of Star Wars.
Uncle Owen!
Yeah?
It's R2 unit has a bad motivator, look!
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Tunisia was the filming location for the first 6 Star Wars movies, with sets still visible in the desert. The country also boasts a rich Christian history.
There is this sort of idea that Christianity is this new religion that is coming from the West. No, we're talking about 200 AD, when there was a vibrant church here.
American William Brown has lived here for 22 years. He pastors the Reformed Church of Tunisia. Drive 20 minutes northeast of the capital, Tunis, and you'll arrive at the ancient Roman ruins of Carthage.
The ruins, at least for people of faith, are very powerful.
Carthage served as a significant center of early Christian thought and home to influential church fathers.
You have Cyprian, his work on the unity of the church. You have Augustine, who was not from Carthage, but was from modern-day Algeria, who came over, was a teacher here. You had Tertullian, and Tertullian is very significant because he was a Tunisian lawyer who came to Christ, and he came up with new vocabulary to try to explain Christian concepts. So even this word Trinity that we have is actually originally came from him.
Have mercy upon you.
American Frank Bernardi pastors the St. George's Anglican Church in Tunis. He points to Carthage as an important center of Christianity in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, a thriving hub for the faith that served as the seat of the Christian church for all of North Africa.
What it produced was this really significant, what I like to call high-octane church that had a reputation throughout the world because of how serious they took their faith and how willing they were to die for their faith.
Dr. Corne Becker, Dean of the School of Divinity at Regent University, says Christianity faced resistance from the Roman Empire, suspicious of this flourishing new faith.
Carthage was really a hotbed of persecution, so Christianity comes to Carthage at the beginning of the 2nd century. And right at the beginning of that, there are a number of martyrs.
Saints Perpetua and Felicity were Christian martyrs from the early persecutions of the church in Africa by Emperor Severus.
Among the more famous martyrs are Felicitas and Perpetua, 2 women brought to this amphitheater on March 7th, 203 AD, to face punishment for following Christ. According to historical accounts, Felicity and Perpetua were led out of those gates down this narrow portion of the lower level of the amphitheater. On that March 7th day, tens of thousands of people had presumably gathered on the upper level, anticipating that the 2 Christian women would be eaten alive by wild animals. Instead, the accounts show that the emperor of the day commanded that the 2 women be put to death by sword.
The executioners carried out their duties quickly, though Perpetua had to guide the gladiator's sword to her throat after he first painfully struck a bone instead of a vein.
Their extraordinary commitment to Christ in the face of public scourging, being thrown to wild animals and finally being killed by the sword, would become a witness not only to North Africa, but to the rest of the world.
The Christians back then who accepted the truth sacrificed themselves, and they did not deny Christ and their beliefs.
Mufida is a member of the Christian community here, and we've taken precautions to protect her identity. She tells CBN News their story of Christianity is one of resilience.
I'm related to these martyrs who were among the first Tunisian Christians in my country. My identity is related to them. I belong to something historic and deep-rooted in Tunisia, and that makes me feel even more proud to belong to Christ.
Elijah, a Christian leader here, says that even though the country's Christian community is small, it stands as a living testimony to the enduring power of faith.
It's a challenge to be a believer in Tunisia, but at the same time, it's a pleasure to live the Christian life and share this with others.
The rough estimates are that there are about 30,000 Christians today who reside in Tunisia, 80% of whom are foreigners. Local Tunisian believers number around 5,000. Although a predominantly Muslim country, Tunisia recognizes freedom of religion. Since the Arab Spring uprising almost 14 years ago, the government has embraced more democratic values.
It used to be very hard for Christians to speak openly about Christ and share their faith. Some were beaten and died in jail. There was so much danger and restrictions, but now, slowly with the openness of the environment, things are changing.
Bernardi says Tunisia's spiritual legacy is not only in ancient ruins, but also in the memories of martyrs and theologians. He longs for a resurgence of faith that mirrors the powerful, world-changing Christianity once defined by this region.
I want Christians around the world to pray that that blessing of Carthage, a church of high-octane Christianity that changed the world, I pray that that blessing return to this place.
George Thomas, CBN News, Carthage, Tunisia.
And we're back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Please stay with us.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. This is a message I'd like to share with you, and I hope you'll post tag tweet and share it with those in your circles of influence. Fix your focus. Take your eyes off your problems and fix your eyes on the problem solver. His name is Jesus. His word comes with promises, and his promises always exceed and measure far beyond your problems. Walk with patience. Trouble does not last always. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye, God bless.